In this video, we're gonna talk about stock delisting. Is it good? Is it bad? What should you do if you own the stock that's about to be delisted? Everything you need to know about stock delisting, we will talk about in this video. So if you want to know more, then you have to check this video out. Hey guys, so I did a bunch of stock delisting videos already in the past, but since we have a new stock delisting that will happen in the next few weeks and months, I thought giving you guys deeper insights on what stock delisting is, because there's so much misconceptions also about it. People have this notion that when a stock is delisted, that the company is not doing so well, that the company is losing money, that the company nothing will happen to the company already, they don't have a shot to earn, and that's what we're gonna talk about here. That's what we will try to give you insight on. But this question has been brought to you by Sharon Rose Legarda from Quezon City. This is what Sharon is asking. Hi, Mr. Hermo. Hi, sir. I'm a fan from Quezon City. I just heard that Pepsi would be delisted from the stock market. Can you give me more insights on this? Thank you, Sharon Rose Legarda, Quezon City. Kita nyo guys, hindi ako biased, so kahit walang bola, straight to the point yung question, binabasa ko pa rin. So hindi nyo kailangan mang bola. Yung ibang questions kasi puro guiding light eh. But yeah, just send in your questions. If you guys have more questions that you guys want to know about the market, go to our Patreon community, send it there, or our YouTube community, or slide a DM on Instagram so I get to answer all of your questions. Now, let's start. Why do companies delist from the stock market? Over the past few years, I've made content about IPOs, secondary listings, listing by way of introduction, specifically ways on how companies can get into the stock market. Please remember, IPOs are basically a private company selling their shares so they can be part of the stock market, and suddenly their shares become public, meaning anyone who has access to a brokerage can now buy and sell their shares. Delisting is exactly the opposite. What do I mean by this? It means that from a company that's already in the stock market, listed, trading, public, the shares that have been listed there would be taken out, and it would move from being a publicly listed company into a private company. There's a lot of reasons on why companies get delisted, but in this video, I want to share 3 items, and I also want to share what are you supposed to do if a company is about to be delisted. Should you buy them, or if you own the stock, should you also sell? And I hope that it gives you clarity and insight on how you get to navigate and weave through this. Let me give you an example. There was so much misconceptions with what was happening in ABS CBN. Let me address this. It does not mean when a company delists that they are bankrupt already. It does not mean also when a company delists that they're not making money anymore. There are a lot of companies that are privately owned, that are not listed publicly, that are doing well. So for those who send questions about ABS CBN, when they would delist, are they gonna go bankrupt? What's gonna happen to the stock? What's gonna happen to the company? It just means that if they would delist, it means that their shares would not be traded in the market, but they would still be a private company that's earning. The fundamentals of the company is totally different from them being listed or not. And by the way, just to clarify it also, by the time I'm making this video, there's no disclosure yet about anything about delisting for ABS CBN. They just lost their franchise. That's just basically it. But are they still getting sales? Yes, they are, because they have streams of revenue still. Are they still in the market? Yes, they are. They're publicly traded still. So please remember, it's very, very important that you listen to right sources of information whenever you would trade and invest, and not just jump into conclusions based on what you see off the internet. So one of the reasons that I could think about why companies would delist is basically this. Reason number 1, they just want to really move their company from something that's public into private. Meaning, please remember, if you are listed in the stock market, there's a lot of scrutiny. People see your cash, people see your debt, people see your income, people can criticize your level of growth, people can say that you are expensive, people can say that I don't like the dividends anymore, and people could just dump the shares. If they don't like it, institutions could just sell it down, and you could see the stock go massively down, even if it's fundamentally sound. So some people, some companies just really want to get out of that scrutiny, so they get to handle and treat and run the companies like they should or how they want it to be. A good example was Michael Dell. Dell Computers was publicly listed prior to 2013, but what he did was he took it out, he delisted Dell Computers in 2013. Now, as a private company, he gets to run it the way that he wants to. No disclosures, he gets to do whatever styles and strategies that he would want to employ. So, that's one reason. So, please remember, when those things happen, it doesn't mean the company's bad. It just means that most likely, they want to have their own strategy. But just to share also, Dell at that time, they weren't so good naman. So, but it does not mean that if they want to take it from public to private, that there's something massively wrong, or at least they're bankrupt. It doesn't follow all the time. Reason number 2 is there are some rules that have been set by stock exchanges for companies that are listed in their exchange that they need to comply. One of those rules is that they need to comply with the float, and the float that's required is around 10%. Meaning, if companies don't follow or don't comply with the 10% float, they are not complying with the minimum requirement to be in the market, hence they have to be delisted. So that's what happened to RWM. Travelers, they did not meet the 10% float. That's why in 2019 they were delisted. In the same way, that's what's happening right now to Pepsi. They will undergo delisting because they cannot maintain or they cannot fulfill the 10% float that was set as a deadline for December 2020. They're currently now at 7.9% float as compared to the required 10%. That being said, they already disclosed that they won't be able to hit the 10% requirement. So exploring all of their options and scenarios, the most prudent way for them is just to delist. There was nothing actually wrong with Pepsi. The company is still standing. It has nothing to do with their sales. It has nothing to do with their debt. It has nothing to do with their cash flow. It has nothing to do with their income. But it had everything to do for them complying the float in the PSE. So please remember that it does not mean that the stock is delisted, that magsasara na siya, nalulugi na siya, hindi siya ganun kaganda. It just means that there are some requirements that have been set that they have not been following. So that's just basically it. Now, here's the interesting thing. On reason number 1 and reason number 2, when that happens, there's what you call a tender offer. What does that mean? That tender offer is the company or whoever wants to take over will buy the shares and offer it at a specific price and at a specific period to investors in the market, meaning they will buy the shares from people who own the current shares of the stock. So, what does that mean? As an investor, you have an option. That's why it's called the tender offer, because you have a choice to accept the offer or not. Meaning, if you accept the offer by the time that they set it, if you accept the offer at the price that they also set it, it means that they will buy the shares from you at that particular price. But again, you have to decide if you will accept it or not. It's not something that happens automatically na, okay, we will delist, you have no choice, you have to return all of the shares. It doesn't happen like that. You have to agree to the tender offer if a tender offer is given so that you get to sell your shares to them. I'm gonna discuss more on the tender offer in the middle of this video, but I wanna discuss first the third reason on why companies get to be delisted. And this one is the heaviest and the most negative of all of the scenarios. Some companies get delisted because they have violated rules in the PSE that them being delisted is a form of sanction or punishment based on what they have done. For some that have been delisted also because of these violations, some of them have already been suspended for quite some time before this even happened. A good example is, and I made videos about this, I'll put the link in the description, about Kalata. As you all know, they violated some of the rules about disclosures and trading restrictions, and because of that, it got triggered that they would be delisted. Now, I said this is the most negative in all of this because there was no tender offer given when they got delisted, meaning all of the shareholders that also wanted to get out of the stock, that wanted to get out of Kalata, were not able to do so. They did not have the option, and since the stock was already suspended prior to the announcement, people could not also sell their shares. So please remember this. When an announcement of a delisting will happen and the stock is being traded in the market, you already have the option right there to sell it. But that was not the option for Kalata at that point in time. So, what happens when a company delists? As what I said at the start, from a public company, they become a private company. And I got a lot of questions from this, no? They would always say, paano yun, Marvin? Nakalimutan ko i-check yung stock ko, hindi ko na-check yung email, hindi ko alam na na-delist. What's gonna happen to me? When a company delists, what basically happens there is this. You are still a shareholder of that company. However, here's the difference. You are a shareholder, or you will become a shareholder of a private company. And the difference there is this. Since they're private already, valuations, research by analysts, comparison, and other metrics that are in the stock market won't be there anymore. It won't be anymore as liquid, meaning when you go into the stock market and you want to buy a stock today, you can buy it today and you can also sell it within the day. But that's not the case anymore when it's a privately listed company. It will be harder for you to find a willing seller. But not just that, if you are a shareholder of a company that's not listed anymore, at what price will you sell it? There's no market price. That means you have to convince someone to sell it at the price that you want. You have to also figure out what's the current valuations for you to be able to buy and sell that company. So, that being said, if the company is still good and you are a shareholder and they give out dividends, guess what? You are still entitled to the dividends that are being given because you are a shareholder. All shareholders are entitled to the same benefits. It's just that it's a private company. It's just that also, if you want to get out, it will be harder for you to get out. Hindi na siya click of a button that you get to get out already. That's the case if it's a good company. Pero yung problem mo is this. What if it's a bad company? What if the company is not making money? What if it's losing? What if the income is declining and you're stuck as a private shareholder? Then it will be harder for you. If it's hard to liquidate something, if the company is good, then it would be much harder to liquidate and get out of a position if the company is bad. And please remember this. If it's a private company, one of the things that's amazing about the stock market is the taxes are lower. There's no more paperwork. You can sell it and then you're done. If it's a private company, there's more paperwork, there's more things that you need to consider, there's more things that you have to figure out and finalize. May mga lawyers pa yan, may mga attorneys pa yan, may mga notaryo pa yan for a transaction to transpire. So it's just like you buying and selling a private corporation, which when they get delisted, you are really owning a private corporation. So sometimes, if your position is not as big, baka hindi na siya ganun kasulit kung private company yung pinag-investan mo. So now, what should you do if a company would announce the delisting? So again, syempre iba-iba tayo. When the delisting was announced, you bought it at a lower price. So wherever you sell, it's a take profit scenario for you. But it becomes tricky also, similar to what happened to Resorts World, that the listing price was much lower than the IPO price, meaning people who bought it at IPO held onto it would have to sell at a losing position. Now, when the delisting announcement happens and given that the stock is still trading in the market openly, you already have the choice right there. If you want to sell it right at that very moment in time before a tender offer is given, before it's way far from the delisting, you can do so. And the only consideration for you, and the only thing that you need to consider is, if I sell here, do I get a profit? It gets trickier if you are selling it at a loss. But please remember this. If you are in the stock market for liquidity, if you are in the stock market because you want to buy, sell, you want to transfer, you can easily move it around, then even though you are selling it at a loss, it may be still a better and a more prudent decision than being stuck with a stock that you don't plan to really hold on to for a very long period of time. So I highly suggest this, that even if you are passive in the market, at least, please, you need to have insight and information in the companies that you own. That's why it's so important and it's so prudent na dapat kahit papano hindi sobrang daming stocks na hawak nyo. Kasi kung sabihin natin 80 yung hawak nyo, paano nyo babantayan lahat yun? That's why it's so important that you study the companies very well, and it has to be an amount that you can manage also. Because if it's an amount that you can manage, it's a number of stocks that you can manage, then you know details about the company that you are also watching. What if the current price is already lower than the price that you bought it? you have an option also to still wait for the tender offer kasi the tender offer might be higher. If the tender offer is higher, then there's a chance that your losses will be smaller, or if you bought it at a lower price, if there's a tender offer, then there's a chance that you might actually earn more. But there's a risk. So if you don't sell at the moment that they announce that the listing will happen and then wala pang tender offer price, you run the risk that if the tender offer is lower than the current market price, then may chance that you will either earn less or lose more. If it's higher, then again, those who will take more risk will have a shot to actually earn more. And that's what we're saying here, that if you take on more risk, you have the shot to earn more, but you also have the possibility that if it doesn't go the way you want it to be, you might get something that's lesser. So if you're asking my opinion on it, I'm in the stock market personally because of the liquidity it gives me. So if I were at the position that a stock would be delisted, if I were also at a position that a tender offer would be given, either I would sell it and swap it into cash, or I would take the tender offer, because that's me. I'm in it because I want to be in the stock market for the liquidity that it gives me. But again, this video is about me giving you the pros and the cons about delisting. This is me showing you that it does not mean when a company is delisted, masama na yung company. It does not mean when a company is delisted, it's going bankrupt. It just means that it's going out of the stock market. It just means that it's gonna be a privately listed company. What I want to share to you is that you have to make your own decision. Do you still want to be an owner of a privately listed company, or do you want the amazingness of being in a stock that's liquid because it's in the stock market, that you can buy and sell it all the time, that you can have all of the research all the time? And that is something that you have to decide on your own. You have to decide if you want to buy or sell the stock. But if you were asking me, if I was at that position, because I'm a stock market guy, I want the liquidity that the stock market provides, I would liquidate the position and then try to transfer it to another stock that I can trade and invest in the market again. But again, those are things that are predicated already on fundamentals and technicals. So there, I hope you guys got a lot from this. I hope this gave you enough insight to be able to learn more about what delisting is. Again, this channel is about giving you principles, strategy, so you get to trade the markets with confidence. And by the way, my name is Marvin Germo. I'm a stock market trader and investor. And if you're new to this channel, like, share, subscribe. I create daily videos on both of my channels, Marvin Germo and Stock Investing Made Easy, with one goal in mind: to help you so you get to reach your goals of financial freedom. So if you want to know more about the markets, I have playlists below about the basics, the technicals, and the fundamentals of the stock market. You can click them. I also have books that are available in Shopee that can be delivered wherever you are in the Philippines, online courses, how you can invest in US markets via eToro, Patreon accounts. Everything else are in the description below to help you, to guide you on how you can use the stock market to win and create an asset class for you to help you reach your goals of financial freedom. So there, I hope you guys got a lot from this, and I hope that this is something that is pushing you, that is helping you, that the stock market is not as hard as what most people think it is, that wherever you are in the world, you can trade and you can win, and that learning concepts like this is something that will help you differentiate out the noise from the hype, from the speculation, because you get to decide things on your own. And in my opinion, that's one of the most important things ever, that you get to decide based on your own conviction, that you get to decide based on a set of rules that you know. So that's it for now. This is Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, guys, and God bless you all.